Hello. Welcome to Boring Histories Unveiled. Tonight, we begin with the sting of mud between your toes, the weight of a worn hoe in your calloused hands, and the distant clang of a church bell reminding you that even God expects his cut of your barley. You're standing in a field, knee-deep in the muck of a medieval village, where the air smells of damp earth and unwashed wool, and every breath feels like a loan you'll have to repay with interest. Where are you watching from? What time is it where you are? Don't be shy, drop a comment. I'd love to know who's curled up under a blanket with me each night. Imagine this. The sky is a bruised gray, threatening rain that'll ruin what little crop you've coaxed from this dingy soil. Somewhere nearby, a cow lows mournful, as if it knows the Lord's men are coming for their share. Could you survive as a medieval peasant, where life is a treadmill of toil, taxes, and the ever-looming shadow of famine? Tonight, you'll slip into that world, like a dream woven from grit and despair, where every choice is a gamble with your next meal. Your back aches as you lean into the hoe, breaking clods of earth that cling to the blade like stubborn children. The field stretches before you, a patchwork of brown and green, each strip marked by the sweat of your neighbors, Hilda, who curses louder than the roosters, and old Tom, whose cough sounds like death rattling. The air is heavy with the scent of manure, spread thin to stretch it further, and the faint, sour tang of your own sweat. Your tunic, coarse and patched, chafes at your neck, and your shoes, little more than leather scraps tied with twine, are soaked through, making each step a squelch. You'd kill for a coffee break, a moment to scroll through something mindless. But here, rest is a luxury, and the Lord's reeve is always watching, his quill scratching your every misstep into his ledger. The church bell rings again, slow and solemn, calling you to vespers. But you can't go. Not yet. The field won't plow itself, and the barley won't grow if you don't finish before the rain. You glance at the sky, where clouds churn like a bad omen, and mutter a prayer, not to God, but to whatever saint might pity a peasant's lot. You're not pious, not really, too practical, too tired, but you know the rules. Miss church, and Father Aldrich will have you on your knees, reciting penances while the Lord takes a fine from your already empty stores. You dig harder, the hose handle splintering under your grip, and try to ignore the ache in your shoulders, the hunger gnawing at your gut. Breakfast was a heel of rye bread, hard as stone, and a thin gruel that tasted of dust. Supper, if you're lucky, will be the same. A shadow falls across the field, and you look up, expecting Hilda or Tom, but it's neither. It's Jitha, the village's oddity, a woman with eyes like polished flint, and a tongue that cuts sharper than any sickle. She's old, or seems it, her face creased like parchment, but she moves with a purpose that makes the young falter. Some call her a wise woman, others a witch, whispering that she speaks to spirits in the woods. You've seen her at the edge of the village, burning herbs under the moon, her chants low and strange, but you've never dared ask why. She carries a bundle of sticks tied with a cord, and at its center, a small carved figure. Wood, not stone, shaped like a woman with no face, its arms spread as if embracing the wind. A charm, you think, your skin prickling. The village doesn't speak of such things, not with Father Aldrich's sermons ringing in their ears. But you know the old ways linger, hidden in the shadows of the church's alkalinity. You pause, the host still in your hands, as Jitha approaches, her eyes glinting with something between amusement and menace. Working yourself to bone, are you? She says, her voice rough as gravel. The Lord will have your soul before the harvest if you don't ease up. You shrug, wiping sweat from your brow, and mutter something about no choice. The barley won't wait. She laughs a short, barking sound and holds up the charm, its faceless figure catching the dim light. This, she says, knows more than the Lord or his priest. It sees the earth's heart, the roots beneath your feet. You do well to listen. You frown uneasy, The church calls such things heresy, and the last man caught with a charm was whipped until he bled. His crops burned as a lesson. But Jitha's not like the others. She doesn't care for Father Aldrich's rules or the Lord's decrees. You've heard whispers of her healing fevers with strange brews, of her cursing a man who struck her, leaving him lame for a year. You don't believe it, not really. You're the sort who'd roll your eyes at a viral conspiracy thread. But out here, alone with her, the air feels heavier, like the world's holding its breath. What's it for, you ask, nodding at the charm, your voice low, as if the barley might overhear. Jitha's eyes narrow, and she steps closer, the sticks in her bundle rattling. Protection, she says. From what walks when the moon's high? From what the church won't name? Your stomach twists, not from hunger, but from the way her words land, like stones in a still pond. You want to laugh, to call it nonsense, but the memory of last month's storm stops you. A night when the wind howled like a living thing, when Hilda swore she saw shapes dancing in the woods, shapes that weren't human. You told her it was drink, but you didn't sleep that night. Your hand on the knife under your straw mattress. Protection's no good if the Lord takes my crop, you say, trying to keep your voice light, like you're joking about a missed deadline. Or if the reeve catches me slacking. Jitha doesn't smile. She sets the charm in the dirt, its faceless figure staring up, and kneels, her fingers tracing the earth like she's reading it. The Lord's not your worst enemy, she says, her voice low, nor the reeve. There's older things, hungrier things, and they don't care for your taxes or your prayers. You shift, the hose weight grounding you. What am I supposed to do, then? Run? Leave the village? The idea's absurd. You've nowhere to go, no coin, no kin beyond these muddy fields. But the thought lingers sharp as a blade. Stay and grind yourself to dust for the Lord's table. Leave and face the wild, where bandits and wolves wait for fools. Jitha stands, brushing dirt from her hands, and picks up the charm. You choose, she says. Stay and feed the earth, or go and see what it hides. But choose soon, the moon's rising, and it's no friend to cowards. She turns, her bundle rattling, and walks toward the woods, her figure blending with the dusk. You're alone again, the bell ringing in the distance, the barley whispering under the wind. You could follow her, ask for the charm, learn its secrets. But that's a path Father Aldrich would burn you for, and the village would shun you. Or you could stay, dig, pray, pay, and hope the earth's hunger spares you. The mud sucks at your feet, the hoe splinters in your hands, and the choice feels bigger than you, heavier than the taxes you'll never outrun. You glance at the woods, where Jitha's gone, and wonder if the faceless figure watches you still. The barley field lies quiet now, save for the rustle of wind through the stalks, a sound like whispered secrets you're too tired to hear. Your hands, raw from the hoe, grip its splintered handle as you trudge back toward the village, the weight of Jitha's words dragging at your steps. The sky has darkened, a heavy gray that promises rain, and the air carries the damp, earthy scent of coming wet, mixed with a faint smoke from hearts already lit. Your tunic clings to your skin, soaked with sweat despite the chill, and each squelch of your mud-caked shoes feels like a reminder of the life you're tethered to. Mud, toil, taxes, repeat. You'd give anything for a hot shower, a mindless scroll through some app. But here, the closest thing to escape is the alehouse, and even that demands coin you don't have. The village comes into view, a huddle of wattle and daub huts crouched under the shadow of the Lord's manor, its stone walls looming like a judgment. The church's wooden steeple juts beside it, the bell silent now, but its echo lingers in your bones, a nagging boss reminding you of duties unpaid. You pass the mill, its wheel creaking as the river churns, and catch the faint, musty smell of ground flour. None of it yours, not after the Lord's share and the miller's cut. Your stomach growls, loud enough to make you wince. and you think of the gruel waiting at home, thin and gray, barely enough to quiet the hunger. You're not starving, not yet, but the line between enough and nothing is thinner than the threadbare cloak flapping at your shoulders. You're almost to your hut when a figure steps from the alley between two houses, his shadow long and sharp in the fading light. It's what the Reeves lackey, a wiry man with a nose like a ferret and eyes that miss nothing. His tunic is cleaner than yours, his boots less worn, a perk of licking the Lord's boots while counting everyone else's sins. He's holding a tally stick. It's notches a record of your debts, days you worked, days you didn't, the barley you owe, the fines for missing church. You hate him not with fire, but with a dull, grinding resentment, like you'd feel for a coworker who always gets the promotion. Late again, what says, his voice oily, his smirk sharper than the knife at his belt. Father Aldrich noticed. So did I. You stop, the hose still in your hands, and force your face blank, though your heart thuds. I was in the field, you say, keeping your voice flat, like you're explaining a missed deadline to a manager who doesn't care. Barley won't plant itself. Watt's smirk widens, and he taps the tally stick against his palm, each tap a threat. Fields don't excuse Vespers, he says, nor the Lord's due. You're short this month again. You want to snap that the Lord's due is always more than you can give, that the Reeves scales are rigged, that what's notches lie. But you bite your tongue, argue, and he'll carve another mark deeper this time, maybe enough to take your pig, your plow, your hope. He steps closer, his breath sour with ale, and you catch a glint at his neck, a small woven charm, not unlike Jitha's, tucked under his tunic. It's a shock, like seeing a coworker's secret tattoo, and your eyes linger too long. What notices his smirk faltering, and he tucks the charm away, his fingers quick, guilty. Mind your own, he says sharper now, and you realize he's not just a lackey, he's afraid, maybe of Jitha, maybe of what her charms mean. You could call him out, expose the charm to Father Aldrich, watch him squirm under the church's wrath. It'd be justice, a small revenge for every notch on that stick. But snitching means crossing Jitha's world, the old ways, and you're not sure you're ready for what that invites. You shrug like it's nothing and step past him, your shoulder brushing his. Not my business, you mutter, but your mind's racing. What's charm Jitha's faceless figure? There's a thread here, something hidden beneath the village's daily grind, something the church doesn't see or doesn't want to. You feel it, like a faint hum under your skin, not unlike the mark you brushed off in Jitha's talk, but can't quite forget. What doesn't follow, but you feel his eyes on your back, and the tally stick's tap echoes in your ears, a metronome of your debts. Your hut is at the village's edge, a low, sagging thing that leaks when it rains and smells of straw and smoke. You push the door, its hinges groaning, and step inside, the darkness swallowing you. The hearth is cold, the ashes gray, and you kneel to coax a fire from the few sticks you got. The flint sparks, a fleeting light, and the smell of burning wood rises, faint but comforting, like the glow of a screen in a dark room. You're alone tonight. Your sister, the only kin you got, is at the manor, scrubbing floors for a crust of bread. You don't know if she'll be back before dawn, and the thought tightens your chest, not with fear, but with a dull, familiar ache. As the fire catches, a knock rattles the door, soft but insistent, like a notification you can't ignore. You stand, the host still by the hearth, and open it, expecting Hilda or Tom. Instead, it's a boy no older than 12, his face smudged with dirt, his eyes wide and darting. You know him, Edric, the miller's son, always skulking, always listening. He's clutching a sack, its contents shifting with a soft clink, and the smell of herbs wafts from it, sharp and bitter, like Jitha's bruise. She sent me, he whispers, his voice barely above the wind. Jitha said you'd need this. You take the sack, its weight surprising, and peer inside. It's not just herbs, There's a small clay figure, crude but unmistakable, its arms spread like the charm Jitha showed you, its surface scratched with symbols you don't know but feel, like a warning. "What's it for?" you ask, your voice low. The fires crackle loud in the quiet. Edric shifts, his eyes flicking to the dark behind him. "She said you'd know when the time comes," he says. "Said to keep it hidden. From him." He doesn't say who, but you know what? Or maybe Father Aldrich, or something worse. Something Jitha's faceless figure guards against. You want to send him away, to toss the sack into the fire and pretend you never saw it. Charms are trouble, heresy, rebellion, a one-way path to the Lord's whip or the church's pyre. But Edric's eyes hold you, not with fear, but with trust, like he believes you're more than a peasant, more than mud and taxes. You think of what's charm his guilt, and wonder if this is your chance to join Jitha's world, to learn what the village hides, to fight the notches on Watt's stick. Or you could refuse, burn the figure, stay safe, stay small, and let the Lord's machine grind you down. "Tell her I'll think about it," you say, your voice steadier than you feel. Edric nods quick and slips into the dark, his footsteps fading fast. You close the door, the sack heavy in your hands, and kneel by the fire, the clay figure staring up, its symbols glowing faintly in the light. The wind howls outside. The fire in your hut sputters, its weak flames casting jittery shadows across the clay figure in your hands, its scratched symbols seeming to writhe in the light. You sit cross-legged on the packed dirt floor, the sack Edric brought still open beside you, its herbal scent bitter like wormwood, mixing with the smoky tang of burning twigs. Outside, the wind moans, rattling the flimsy door, and you half expect what's ferret-like face to appear, his tally stick ready to carve your fate for holding this forbidden thing. Your sister's absence gnaws at you, her empty palate a silent accusation in the corner, but the figure demands your focus, its faceless form heavy with Jitha's warning. You'll know when the time comes. You'd rather be doom-scrolling some mindless feed than staring at this, but here, in this muddy speck of a village, the only notifications are the ones that can get you flogged or worse. You turn the figure over, its rough surface pricking your calloused fingers. The symbols aren't random, spirals, lines, a crude shape, like an eye etched with a precision that feels wrong for clay, like they're meant to hold something, see something. You think of Jitha's charm in the field, its wooden twin staring at the sky, and Watt's hidden weave under his tunic. The village is a web, you realize, not just of taxes and toil, but of secrets, old ways the church tries to bury under sermons and bells. You're no believer in spirits. You'd scoff at a ghost story on a modern thread. But the figure's weight, its silent gaze, makes your skin crawl, like you're holding a live coal that hasn't yet burned. A sharp rap at the door jolts you, and you shove the figure under your cloak, heart thudding. You grab the hoe, its splintered handle a poor weapon, and crack the door open, expecting Edric, or worse, what? Instead, it's Hilda, her broad face flushed, her apron smeared with flour and grease. She's panting, her breath clouding in the cold, and her eyes are wild, not with her usual bluster, but with something sharper. Fear, maybe, or rage. "You in there dawdling?" she snaps, but her voice cracks, betraying her. "Get out here. It's trouble." You hesitate, the figure's weight pressing against your chest. "What kind?" you ask, keeping the door half closed, like you're guarding a secret spreadsheet. Hilda snorts, but it's forced, her hands twisting her apron. "The kind that don't wait. At the alehouse." Now, she doesn't explain, just turns and stomps off, her heavy steps fading into the dark. You glance at the fire, the sack, the figure hidden under your cloak. Trouble at the alehouse could mean anything, a brawl, a thief, what schemes. But Hilda's fear sticks with you, a warning you can't ignore. You could stay, hide the figure, keep safe, but the village doesn't let you hide, not really. You grab your cloak, tuck the figure deeper, and step out, the wind biting your face like a slap. The village is quiet, too quiet. The hut's dark save for a few flickering hearthlights. The alehouse glows at the center, its thatched roof sagging. The hum of voices spilling out like a bad connection. The air smells of sour ale, wet straw, and something metallic, sharp enough to make you pause. You push through the door, the heat hitting you like a wall, thick with the stench of sweat and spilled drink. The room is packed, Tom's cough rattling in the corner, the miller's red face looming over a tankard. A dozen others you know by their hunched shoulders and muttered gripes. But the mood's wrong, not the usual drunken haze, but a taut electric edge, like a meeting where everyone knows someone's getting fired. At the center near the fire stands a stranger, a man tall and gaunt, his cloak black as soot, his face half hidden by a hood. He's not from the village, not from the manor, and his presence feels like a glitch, something that doesn't belong. His hands are gloved, unusual for a peasant, and he's speaking low and measured, his voice cutting through the din like a knife. You catch fragments, land, debt, justice, but it's his tone, not his words, that chills you smooth and cold, like a corporate email dressed up as concern. The villagers are rapt, some nodding, others shifting uneasily, and you spot Hilda near the back, her eyes locked on the man, her hands still twisting her apron. You slip beside her, keeping the figure hidden under your cloak. "Who's he?" you whisper, your voice barely audible over the crackle of the fire. Hilda doesn't look at you, her jaw tight. "Calls himself Cuthbert," she mutters. "Turned up at dusk, talking big. Says he's here to settle scores." Her words are vague, but her fear isn't, and you feel it too, a prickle at your neck, like the figure symbols are watching through your cloak. You study Cuthbert, his gloved hands gesturing slow, deliberate, and notice a cord at his wrist, woven like Jitha's charm, like Watts, but darker, threaded with something that glints, bone, maybe, or teeth. The alehouse door bangs open, and what strides in, his ferret eyes glinting, his tally stick tucked under his arm. The room tenses, voices dying, and Cuthbert pauses, his hooded gaze flicking to what like a hawk spotting prey. What doesn't notice, or pretends not to, his smirk fixed as he pushes through the crowd. "What's this then?" he says, loud, his voice dripping with false cheer. Strangers stirring trouble? He's addressing the room, but his eyes are on Cuthbert, and you see his hand stray to his tunic where the charm hides. You shift, the clay figure pressing against your ribs, and wonder if what knows what Cuthbert carries, if they're part of the same hidden web. Cuthbert smiles, a thin, sharp thing, and steps forward, his cloak parting to reveal a belt hung with pouches, each one bulging with shapes you can't name. "No trouble," he says, his voice softer now, but it carries like a whisper in a quiet office. "Just truth. The Lord takes, the reeve counts, but who pays?" He looks at the crowd, his eyes sweeping over you, and you swear they linger, like he sees the figure, sees you. The villagers murmur, some angry, some scared, and you feel the room tilt, like a balance about to break. Hilda grabs your arm, her grip bruising. "He's trouble," she hisses, low enough for only you to hear. Talks of rebellion, of burning the manor's books, but he's not one of us. Her eyes flick to Cuthbert's cord, then to you, and you realize she's seen it too, the weave, the glint. You could speak up, warn what? Tell him Cuthbert's no ordinary drifter. It'd earn you favor, maybe lighten the notches on a stick. But Cuthbert's words, justice, debt, echo Jitha's, the figures, and you wonder if he's here for the same hunger, the same old ways. Betray him, and you side with what? The Lord, the church. Stay silent, and you risk the village, your sister, yourself. If Cuthbert's truth is a spark that burns it all down, what steps closer to Cuthbert, his smirk gone, his hand on his knife? "You'll answer to the reeve," he says, but his voice wavers. and you see sweat bead on his brow, despite the fire's heat. Cuthbert doesn't flinch, just tilts his head, his smile wider now, almost feral. The crowd shifts, some stepping back, others leaning in, and you feel the figure burn against your chest, its symbols alive, urging you to choose. Speak, and save the village from whatever Cuthbert brings. Stay silent, and let his truth, whatever it is, unfold, even if it buries you all. The fire crackles, the ale sours in the air, and Hilda's grip tightens, waiting for you to move. You take a breath, the figures wait a decision you can't unmake, and step forward, your voice low but steady. What? You say, and the room turns, eyes on you, Cuthbert's most of all. You don't know what you'll say, warn him, challenge him, or something else. But the figure hums, the web tightens, and the village holds its breath, waiting for your choice to tip the scales. The alehouse air chokes you, thick with the stench of sour ale, sweat, and the metallic tang that lingers like a bad omen. Your voice, calling Watt's name, hangs in the room, a pebble dropped into a still pond, and every eye turns to you, sharp and heavy, like you've just interrupted a Zoom call with a bombshell. What freezes, his hand hovering near the knife at his belt, his ferret eyes narrowing as they lock on you. Cuthbert, the hooded stranger, tilts his head, his thin smile curling tighter, and you feel the clay figure under your cloak, its scratched symbols pressing against your ribs like a pulse. Hilda's grip on your arm loosens, but her breath is shallow, and the crowd's murmur grows, a low buzz that makes the fire's crackle sound louder, hungrier. You've stepped into the web now, Jitha's, Cuthbert's, Watt's, and there's no backing out. You swallow, your throat dry as old straw, and force your voice steady. What? You say again, louder, though it feels like shouting into a void. He's not here to steal. You nod at Cuthbert, gambling on words you haven't fully thought through, like hitting send on an email you didn't proofread. He's talking sense. The Lord's take, the reeds notches, they're bleeding us dry. The words spill out reckless, and you feel the figure hum, as if it's pleased. The crowd shifts, some nodding, others glancing at Watt, and you realize you've lit a spark in a room full of tinder. Watt's face darkens, his smirk gone, and he steps toward you, the tally stick in his hand like a club. Sense, he snaps, his voice high cracking. You, a mud grubber, talking sense over the Lord's law. He's close now, close enough for you to smell the ale on his breath, the fear under his bluster. His eyes flick to your cloak, like he knows what's hidden there, and you wonder if he's seen Jitha's charms before, if he's part of a world or just scared of it. The crowd murmurs louder, Tom's cough cutting through, and you feel Cuthbert watching, his gloved hand still, his pouches clinking softly as he shifts. You could back down, mumble an apology, let what's authority smother the moment. It'd be safer. Keep your head low, your sister fed, your hut unburned. But the figures wait, Cuthbert's words, justice, debt, burning you, and you're tired, so tired, of notches and taxes and mud. You stand straighter, the hose weight forgotten in your hand. We're all bleeding, you say, your voice finding ground, like you're pitching a project you believe in. You count our barley, our pigs, our days, but what do we get? Hunger, cold, graves. The crowd roars now, not cheers, but a raw, angry hum, and Hilda's eyes widen, her hand grabbing your arm again, not to stop you, but to anchor herself. Watt's face twists, and he raises the tally stick, pointing it at you like a curse. You'll pay for this, he hisses, but his voice wavers, and you see his other hand stray to his tunic, to the charm you glimpsed before. He's not just angry, he's scared, and not just of you. Cuthbert steps forward, his cloak parting, the bone-threaded cord at his wrist glinting in the firelight. The fire tender speaks truth, he says, his voice smooth, cutting through the noise like a blade. The Lord's law is a chain, and chains break. His words are soft, but they land hard, and the crowd surges, some shouting, others backing away. Tom stands, his cough silenced, his old eyes blazing, and even the miller, red-faced and drunk, looks sober, his tankard forgotten. You feel the room tilt, the web tightening, and the clay figure burns against your chest, its symbols alive, urging you on. What lunges, not at Cuthbert, but at you, his knife flashing, a clumsy swing born of panic. You dodge, instinct kicking in, and the Hulk comes up, its handle cracking against his arm. He yelps, the knife clattering to the floor, and the crowd gasps, the sound swallowing the fire's crackle. You freeze, the hoe raised, what clutching his arm, his eyes wide with shock and pain. You didn't mean to hit him, not really. You're no fighter, just a peasant who tends the fields, who'd rather argue over a late report than draw blood. But the figure hums, the crowd roars, and Cuthbert's smile widens, like he's seen this before, like he's planned it. Enough! A new voice booms, and the room stills, the crowd parting like wheat under a scythe. It's Father Aldrich, his black robes sweeping the floor, his cross gleaming at his chest. His face is stern, but his eyes are sharp, darting from what to you to Cuthbert, like he's tallying sins faster than any reeve. What devilry is this, he demands, his voice heavy with the church's weight. Brawling in God's sight, stirring rebellion, he steps forward, and the crowd shrinks, even Tom sitting back down, his cough returning. You lower the hoe, your hands shaking, and feel the figure's heat, a secret you're sure Aldrich can see. What scrambles to his feet, his arm bruised, but his smirk returning, weaker now. He struck me, Father, he says, pointing at you, his voice whining, like a kid tattling. And him, he jabs a finger at Cuthbert. He's poisoning them, talking treason. Aldrich's eyes narrow, and he turns to Cuthbert, who hasn't moved, his gloved hands folded, his smile unshaken. Speak, stranger, Aldrich says, his voice low, dangerous. What brings you to sow discord in my flock? Cuthbert tilts his head, his hood slipping slightly, revealing a scar that curls from his temple to his jaw, pale and jagged. No discord, Father, he says, his voice still smooth, almost mocking. I bring clarity. The Lord's yoke is heavy, the reeve's hand heavier. God sees all, does he not? His words are careful, skirting blasphemy, but the crowd murmurs again, and you feel the figure pulse, like it's feeding on the tension. Aldrich's face hardens, but he doesn't answer, his eyes flicking to you. Then to what? Then back to Cuthbert, like he's weighing a choice as heavy as yours. You could speak now, tell Aldrich about what's charmed Cuthbert's cord, the figure burning under your cloak. It'd shift the blame, maybe save you from what's revenge, from Aldrich's wrath. You'd be the good peasant, loyal to the church, safe in its shadow. But Cuthbert's words, chains break, echo in you, and the figure's symbols whisper of Jitha's world, of truths the church buries. Speak, and you betray the old ways, the spark Cuthbert's lit, the chance to be more than mud. Stay silent, and you risk everything. Your sister, your hut, your life. If Aldrich's justice or what's knife finds you first. Hilda's hand is on your arm again, trembling now, and you see her eyes, not on you, but on Cuthbert, like she knows something, like she's seen his kind before. The fire spits, the alehouse creaks, and A.L.D. Aldrich steps closer, his cross glinting, and you feel the figure's heat, the web's pull, the choice you can't escape. You open your mouth, your voice a whisper, but before you can speak, Cuthbert moves, his gloved hand brushing his cord, and the air shifts, heavy, like the world's holding its breath. You hesitate, the host still in your hand, the crowd watching, what's bruised darkening, Aldrich's eyes burning. Speak and save yourself. Bury Cuthbert, bury the figure. Stay silent and let the spark burn, let the web tighten, let the village choose its fate. The fire roars, the cymbals hum, and Cuthbert's scar catches the light, daring you to decide. The alehouse holds its breath, The fire's roar the only sound as Cuthbert's gloved hand lingers on the bone-threaded cord at his wrist, his scar glinting like a warning in the flickering light. Your lips part, but the words you meant to speak, whether to betray Watt's charm or defend Cuthbert's spark, die in your throat, choked by the weight of the clay figure hidden under your cloak. Its symbols burn against your chest, a silent pulse that feels alive, like Jitha's secrets whispering through your ribs. Father Aldrich's cross gleams, his eyes drilling into you. Then Cuthbert. Then Watt, who's clutching his bruised arm, his ferret-like sneer faltering under the priest's gaze. The crowd presses closer, their sweat and ale-soaked breath a heavy fog. And Hilda's trembling hand on your arm feels like the only anchor in a room teetering on the edge of something you can't name. Cuthbert breaks the silence, his voice soft but sharp, like a blade slipping through cloth. God's justice is eternal, he says, his eyes on Aldrich, not you, but man's chains are not. The words are a dare, skirting the edge of heresy, and the crowd murmurs, a low, uneasy hum that makes the fire spit. Aldrich's face tightens, his knuckles widening around his cross, but he doesn't speak, not yet. What seizes the moment, stepping forward, his tally stick raised like a scepter. He's a snake, father, he spits, his voice shrill, pointing at Cuthbert, stirring rebellion, poisoning good folk. His eyes flick to you, accusing, and you feel the figure's heat, a reminder of the choice you dodge but can't escape. You shift, the host still in your hand, its splintered handle grounding you, but your heart races, like you're staring at an inbox full of urgent emails with no idea where to start. Speak, and you could tip the scales, expose Watt's charm, his hypocrisy, and maybe save yourself from his wrath. Or call out Cuthbert's cord, his pouches, his talk of broken chains, and align with Aldrich, the church, the Lord's order. Or stay silent. Let the spark Cuthbert's lit grow. Let the village decide for itself, even if it burns you all. The figure hums, Jitha's warning. You'll know when the time comes, echoing in your skull, and you wonder if this is it, the moment you meant, the moment you choose to be more than mud. Before you can decide, a scream cuts through the alehouse, high and raw, from outside. The crowd turns, the tension snapping like a taut rope, and the door bangs open, letting in a gust of cold air that smells of wet earth and iron. It's your sister, her face pale as bone, her hands bloody, her apron torn. She stumbles in, eyes wide, and collapses to her knees, gasping. The manner, she chokes, her voice barely audible over the crowd's gasps. They took her. Alice. Your stomach lurches, Alice, the manor's youngest maid, barely 14, always humming as she scrubbed floors beside your sister. You grab her, your hands shaking, the figure forgotten. Who took her, you demand, your voice rough, like you're shouting at a glitch that won't fix itself. She shakes her head, tears streaking her dirt-smudged face. Men, not the lords, strangers. They came at dusk, masked, with knives. They said it's for the old debt. Her words hit like a stone, and you feel the figure pulse, its symbols alive, tying this to Jitha, to Cuthbert, to the web you've stumbled into. The crowd erupts, voices overlapping, fear, anger, confusion, and Aldrich raises a hand, silencing them, his face grim. Speak plainly, girl, he says, his voice cold but unsteady. What debt? Where? Your sister clutches your arm, her nails digging in. The woods, she whispers, her eyes darting to the door, like she expects those masked men to follow. They took her to the old oak, the one by the stream. They had things, charms like hers. She points at Cuthbert, her hand trembling, and the room explodes again, accusations flying. What shouts blaming Cuthbert? Tom's cough turns to a wheeze, his old voice muttering about curses. Hilda pulls you back, her eyes wide, like she's seen a ghost. Cuthbert doesn't flinch, his smile gone, his scar stark against his pale skin. The old debt, he says, almost to himself. and you see his hand tighten on the cord, the bone glinting. Aldrich steps forward, his cross raised like a shield. "This is devil's work," he declares, his voice booming now, the priest reclaiming the room. "No debt justifies bloodshed. You," he points at you, his eyes sharp, "and you," he turns to Cuthbert, "will answer for this. To the woods, now, to save the girl and cleanse this sin." The crowd roars, some grabbing sticks, others shrinking back, and you feel the figure burn, its weight a choice you can't dodge. Go with Aldrich, and you're the church's tool, chasing Alice into a trap you don't understand, risking your sister, yourself, for a girl who might already be gone. Stay, and you abandon Alice, betray your sister's plea, let the old debt, whatever it is, claim another life. You look at your sister, her bloodied hands, her desperate eyes, and feel the hoe in your hand, useless against masked men with charms and knives. You think of Jitha, her faceless figure, her talk of hungrier things, and wonder if she knew this was coming, if the clay figure was meant for this. Cuthbert meets your gaze, his eyes unreadable, and you see his pouches shift, like they hold secrets heavier than bone. What's shouting now, rallying men to follow Aldrich, his tally stick forgotten, his charm still hidden. Hilda whispers, "Don't go," but her voice is weak, and you know she's thinking of Alice of the woods, of the old oak where the village whispers of shadows that dance. You step forward, the figures heat a fire in your chest, and grab your sister's arm, pulling her up. "I'm going," you say, not to Aldrich, but to her, your voice steady despite the fear clawing your gut. You don't know if you're chasing Alice or the truth, if you're fighting the old debt or feeding it, but you can't stay here, watching the village tear itself apart. Aldrich nods, his cross gleaming, and Cuthbert follows, his cloak sweeping the floor, his silence louder than what shouts. The crowd parts, some joining, others fleeing, and you step into the night, the wind cold and sharp, carrying the scent of blood and wet leaves. The woods loom at the village's edge, a tangle of black branches under a sky heavy with clouds. The old oak is a mile off, its gnarled roots a landmark for lovers and thieves. But tonight it feels like a grave. Your sister clings to you, her breath ragged, and you feel the figure, its symbols urging you on, like Jitha's voice in your head. Aldrich leads, his robes flapping, his cross a beacon in the dark. Cuthbert walks beside you, his pouches clinking, his scar catching the faint moonlight. What trails, his knife drawn, his eyes darting, like he's hunting you as much as Alice's captors. The men from the alehouse follow, their sticks and muttered prayers a frail shield against the night. The stream gurgles as you near the oak, its water black and cold, and the air shifts, heavy with the smell of damp earth and something sweeter, like rotting fruit. You see it now, the tree's massive trunk, its branches twisted like claws, and beneath it, a circle of stones, not natural but placed, each one etched with symbols like the figures, like Cuthbert's cord. Alice is there, bound to the oak, her face pale, her eyes wide but alive. The masked men, 3 of them, cloaked in gray, their knives glinting, stand in a circle, chanting low, their voices a drone that makes your skin crawl. Charms hang from their belts, woven with bone and feather, and you feel the figure pulse. The old oak looms like a sentinel, its gnarled branches clawing at the starless sky, and beneath it, Alice's bound form trembles against the rough bark, her eyes wide with terror but defiant. The 3 masked men circle her, their gray cloaks blending with the shadows, their knives glinting in the faint moonlight that breaks through the clouds. Their chant is a low, guttural hum, weaving through the air like smoke, and the stones around the oak, etched with spirals and eyes like the clay figure under your cloak, seem to pulse in time with it. The air is thick with a sweet, rotting scent of decay, undercut by the sharp tang of blood, and your sister's grip on your arm tightens, her bloodied hands leaving smears on your sleeve. Father Aldrich stands rigid, his cross raised like a shield, his lips moving in silent prayer, while Cuthbert's scar catches the light, his gloved hands hovering near his pouches, calm but ready. What skulks at the edge, his knife drawn, his ferret eyes darting between you and the masked men, as if he's weighing who to betray first. The men from the alehouse clutch their sticks, their muttered curses fading into the chant, and you feel the figure's heat against your chest, its symbols alive, urging you into the web you've been tangled in since Jitha's first warning. You step forward, the mud sucking at your shoes, and the chant falters, one masked man turning, his eyes glinting through the slits in his hood. "Stay back," he growls, his voice rough but unsteady, like he's not sure who he's addressing. You, Aldrich, or the night itself? His knife points at Alice, its blade nicked but sharp, and she flinches, a soft whimper escaping her lips. Your sister gasps, her nails digging into your arm, and you feel the hoe in your other hand, its splintered handle a poor match for knives and chance. You're no hero. You're the one who plows fields, who swallows what sneers, who'd rather debug a spreadsheet than face this. But Alice's eyes meet yours, pleading, and the figure burns, Jitha's voice echoing. You'll know when the time comes. Aldrich's voice booms, cutting through the chant like a hammer. Release her in God's name. His cross gleams, and the masked men hesitate, their knives lowering a fraction. Your rights are blasphemy. You're dead a lie. He steps into the circle, fearless or reckless, and the stones seem to dim, their glow faltering under his shadow. The lead masked man laughs, a harsh barking sound, and raises his charm, a woven mass of bone and feather, like Cuthbert's cord, like what secret? "God's not here," he says, his voice low now, almost a whisper. "The old dead is. She pays, or we all do." His words hit you, heavy as the mud, and you think of Jitha's hungrier things, of the alehouse's spark, of the web tying this moment to every choice you've made. Cuthbert moves, silent as a shadow, his cloak parting to reveal a pouch unclasped, its contents glinting, small, sharp, like teeth. "The debt's a story," he says, his voice smooth, mocking, aimed at the masked men, but loud enough for all. You feed it because you're afraid. Let her go, and face the truth. His scar twitches, his smile gone, and you see the lead masked man flinch, his knife trembling. The crowd from the alehouse shifts, some stepping closer, others backing away, their sticks useless against the weight of this moment. Watt's eyes narrow, his knife still drawn, and you catch him edging toward Aldrich, like he's choosing sides or hedging bets. Your sister whispers, "Do something," her voice breaking, and you feel the figure's pulse. Its symbols not just urging but demanding. Do what? Rush the masked men, and you risk Alice's throat, your sister's safety, your own life. Shout for Aldrich to act, and you bind yourself to the church, to the Lord's order, burying Jitha's secrets and Cuthbert's spark. Or join Cuthbert, challenge the debt, the charms, the old ways, and step deeper into the web, where the village might burn for it. You're not built for this. Your mud and taxes, not rebellion or rights, but Alice's whimper, your sister's grip, the figure's heat, they pull you, like a deadline you can't ignore. You step into the circle, the stones glow flaring under your feet, and raise the hoe, not to strike, but to be seen. "Enough," you say, your voice steadier than you feel, like you're calling a meeting to order. No one's paying tonight. Let her go. The lead masked man turns, his knife steady now, his eyes glinting with something like amusement. "You," he says, almost laughing. A field hand, breaking the debt. He steps closer, his charm swaying, and you feel the figure burn, its symbols sinking with the stones, with the chant, with the night. Aldrich shouts, blasphemer, and lunges, his cross aimed at the masked man, but another grabs him, wrestling him to the mud, his robes tangling. The crowd roars, some rushing forward, others fleeing. And what dives into the fray, his knife flashing, not at the masked men, but at Cuthbert, who dodges, his pouch spilling small, sharp bones into the mud. Your sister screams, pulling you back, but you shake her off, the hoe raised, the figures heat a fire in your chest. Alice twists against her bonds, her eyes on you, and you see the lead masked man raise his knife, not to cut her, but to mark her, tracing a spiral on her arm, blood welling dark and slow. You charge, not thinking, the hoe swinging, and it cracks against the masked man's shoulder, sending him staggering. He curses, his knife dropping, and you grab Alice, yanking at the ropes, your hand slipping on her blood. The chant dies, the stones dim, and the other masked men hesitate, their eyes darting to Cuthbert, who's grappling with what? His gloved hands locked on Watt's wrist. Aldrich's on his knees, praying or cursing, his cross mud-smeared, and the alehouse men shout, their sticks swinging at shadows. You free Alice, her weight sagging against you, and your sister runs forward, helping you drag her from the circle. The stones cold now, their glow gone. The lead masked man rises, his shoulder bruised, but his eyes blazing. You've broken nothing, he snarls, his charm raised, its bone glinting. The debt takes all. He lunges, not for you, but for the stones, kicking one free, and the air shifts, heavy, like a storm breaking. The sweet, rotting smell surges, and you hear it, a low, unnatural hum, not from the masked men, but from the oak, its branches creaking, moving, like they're alive. Your sister screams, Alice clings to you, and you feel the figure. Its symbol's not just pulsing, but singing, a soundless wail that makes your teeth ache. Cuthbert shouts, his voice cutting through the hum. It's a lie. He's free of what? Who's sprawled in the mud, clutching his arm, his charm torn free and trampled. Cuthbert holds a bone from his pouch, its surface etched with spirals, and snaps it, the crack loud as thunder. The hum falters, the oak stills, and the masked men freeze, their eyes wide, like they've seen their god die. You clutch Alice, your sister beside you, and realize the figure's silent now, its heat fading, like it's done its work. But the debt, the web, the hunger, it's not gone, just paused, waiting. Aldrich stands, his face grim, his cross raised again. Seize them, he orders, pointing at the masked men, and the alehouse men obey, their sticks swinging, pinning the cloaked figures to the mud. The lead masked man laughs, even as he's bound, his eyes on you. You've paid nothing, he says, his voice low, almost pitying. The debt remembers. You shiver not from cold, but from the truth in his words. The same truth Jitha hinted at, that Cuthbert's fighting, that the figure carried. You could leave now, take Alice and your sister back to the village. Let Aldrich's justice or Cuthbert's truth sort the rest. It'd be safe, or as safe as a peasant's life gets, mud, taxes, the Lord's shadow. Or you could stay, demand answers from the masked men, from Cuthbert, from the stones that still hum faintly under your feet. What is the debt? Why Alice? Why you? The figure's weight is gone, but its symbols linger in your mind, tying you to the oak, the web, the hunger you've only delayed. Your sister sobbing, Alice's blood stains your hands, and Cuthbert's eyes meet yours, his scar stark, daring you to choose. You step back, Alice and your sister with you, but your eyes stay on the stones, on the oak, on the masked man's sneer. The village waits, the Lord waits, the debt waits, and you, the field hand, the fire tender, stand at the edge, hoe in hand, choosing not just for you, but for them all. The wind howls, the stream gurgles, and the oak's branches creak, watching, always watching. The old oak stands silent now, its branches still, as if the unnatural hum that shook it has drained its strength. Alice clings to you, her bloodied arms slick under your grip, her shallow breaths clouding in the cold night air. Your sister huddles close, her sobs muffled, her hands trembling as she steadies Alice's frail form. The circle of etched stones around the tree lies broken, one kicked free by the masked man. Its spirals dull in the moonlight. The three cloaked figures kneel in the mud, bound by the alehouse men's ropes, their knives scattered, their charms, woven with bone and feather, trampled into the earth. Father Aldrich looms over them, his cross raised, his robe streaked with mud, his voice low and fierce as he mutters prayers or curses. You can't tell which. Cuthbert stands apart, his scar stark against his pale face, the broken bone from his pouch still in his hand, its snapped edge glinting like a confession. What lies sprawled nearby, clutching his arm, his torn charm exposed, his ferret eyes darting with fear and fury. The stream gurgles softly, its water black and cold, and the air carries the fading sweet rot smell, now laced with the sharp, iron tang of Alice's blood. The clay figure under your cloak is quiet, its heat gone, but its weight lingers, a reminder of Jitha's web, of the debt the masked man swore remembers you. You want to move, to take Alice and your sister back to the village, to the frail safety of your hut's cold hearth. But your feet are rooted, the hoe heavy in your hand, its splintered handle a tether to the peasant you were before this night. The alehouse men shift uneasily, their sticks lowered, their faces pale with a kind of fear that comes from seeing something they can't unsee. You're no different. You're no warrior, no seer, just a field hand who plows and pays, who'd rather wrestle with a jammed printer than this blood-soaked truth. But Alice's weight against you, your sister's desperate grip, and the masked man's words, the debt remembers, hold you here, in this circle, in this web, where every choice feels like a trap. Albert turns, his eyes blazing, and points at you, his cross catching the moonlight. You, he says, his voice sharp, like a manager calling you out in a meeting. You brought this devilry, you and that stranger. He nods at Cuthbert, who doesn't flinch, his gloved hands folding the broken bone back into his pouch, his silence louder than any defense. The crowd murmurs, Tom's cough cutting through, and you see Hilda at the edge, her apron twisted in her hands, her eyes darting from you to Alice, to the bound men. What scrambles to his knees, his voice shrill. He struck me, he whines, pointing at you, then at Cuthbert. And he's one of them. Look at his cord, his bones. He's grasping, desperate to shift the blame, but his torn charm lies in the mud, a traitor to his own secrets. You open your mouth to protest, to say you only wanted to save Alice, to deny the figure under your cloak, but your sister's whisper stops you. Don't, she hisses, her voice barely audible, her eyes on Aldrich. He'll burn us all. She's right. You've seen the church's justice, the pyres for heretics, the whips for those who stray. The figure, Jitha's gift, ties you to the old ways, to the debt, to the masked men's chants. Speak, and you risk exposing it, damning yourself, your sister, maybe Alice. Stay silent, and you let Aldrich's wrath fall on Cuthbert, on the masked men, maybe on the village itself, if he deems it tainted. Cuthbert steps forward, his cloak sweeping the mud, his voice calm, almost amused. The girl's safe, Father, he says, nodding at Alice, who's trembling but alive. No devilry here, only men and their fears. His scar twitches, and you see his eyes flick to the broken stone, then to you, like he knows the figure's weight, knows your choice. Aldrich's face darkens, his cross trembling in his grip. You mock God's law, he snaps, and bring chaos to this flock. You'll answer stranger before the Lord and the bishop. The alehouse men tighten their grip on the masked men, who don't struggle, their eyes glinting through their hoods, like they're waiting for something, like the debt's not done. You feel the web tighten, Jitha's charms, Cuthbert's bones. What's hypocrisy? The masked men's rights, all pulling at you, at the village, at the fragile order of mud and taxes. You could hand over the figure, confess to Aldrich, Beg mercy for you and your sister. It'd be easy, like deleting a risky email before it's sent, keeping you safe in the Lord's shadow, the church's grace. But Alice's blood on your hands, Cuthbert's spark, chains break, and the masked man's warning stirs something in you, a flicker of defiance, like the moment you'd stand up to a boss who's pushed too far. The debt, whatever it is, isn't just theirs, it's the village's, yours, woven into the fields you plow, the taxes you pay, the hunger you swallow. You step forward, Alice still leaning on you, and meet Aldrich's gaze, your voice low but steady. I saved her, you say, nodding at Alice. Ignoring what's hiss, the crowd's murmur. That's no devilry. But this, you gesture at the stones, the bound men, the oak. This isn't God's work either. It's ours. The words surprise you, raw and true, like a post you'd regret sharing but can't take back. Aldrich's eyes narrow, but he doesn't speak, his cross lowering a fraction, like he's weighing your soul against his ledger. The lead masked man laughs, a low, bitter sound, his bound hands twitching. Ours, he echoes, his voice cutting through the wind. The debt's always ours. You'll see field hand. His eyes find yours, and you feel the figure again, not hot, but heavy, like it's waking. Cuthbert's hand strays to his pouch, his scar stark, and you wonder if he's with them, against them, or something else. A player in a game you don't understand. What's shouting now, demanding Aldrich sees you, but the priest ignores him, his eyes on the masked men, then the oak, like he's seeing the web for the first time. Hilda steps forward, her voice shaking but loud. Enough blood, she says, her apron a flag of surrender. Take them to the Lord, Father, but let us go home. Her eyes meet yours, pleading, and you see the crowd nod, Tom's cough softening, the alehouse men loosening their grip. They're tired, scared, ready to trade truth for safety, like you've been all your life. But Alice's weight, your sister's fear, the figures pull, they hold you, demanding more than mud, more than silence. Aldrich nods, slow, his cross steady now. To the manor, he says, his voice grim. The Lord will judge. He gestures at the masked men, then Cuthbert, then you, and your heart sinks, like you've just been CC'd on a disciplinary email. The alehouse men haul the masked men up, their charms crunching underfoot, and what scrambles to his feet, his smirk returning, like he's won. Cuthbert doesn't resist, his pouches clinking as he's pushed forward, his eyes on you, not accusing but curious, like he's betting on your next move. You could slip away now, take Alice and your sister back to the hut, hide the figure, and pray Aldrich forgets you in the chaos. It's what a peasant does, keep low, survive, let the Lord and church sort their battles. But the masked man's laugh, Cuthbert's spark, the figure's weight, they're a challenge, a chance to be more than a field hand, to cut the web instead of tangling deeper. Stay with Aldrich, face the Lord's judgment, and you risk everything, your sister's safety, your hut, your life, for a truth you barely grasp. Or go home, and let the debt grow. Let Alice's blood be the first of many. Let the village grind on under taxes and fear. You look at your sister, her tear-streaked face, and Alice, her arms still bleeding, her eyes grateful but haunted. You feel the figure, its symbols etched in your mind, and think of Jitha, her faceless charm, her hungrier things. The manor's a trap, but so is silence, and you're tired of traps. You step forward, Alice and your sister with you, and join the grim procession, the hoe in one hand, the figure hidden, your choice of fire you can't douse. The oak watches, the stream gurgles, and the debt waits, patient as the mud under your feet. The manor looms ahead, its stone walls a gray smear against the night, its torches flickering like eyes that never blink. You trudge through the mud, Alice leaning heavily on your shoulder, her bloodied arm wrapped in your sister's torn apron, her breaths shallow but stubborn. Your sister walks close, her eyes darting between you and the bound figures ahead. The three masked men, their gray cloaks dragging, their charms crushed, but their silence defiant. Father Aldrich leads the procession, his cross held high, his robes caked with mud, but his step unyielding, like he's marching to a holy war. Cuthbert follows, his hands tied loosely, his scar catching the torchlight, his pouches still clinking with secrets. What skulks beside him, his knife sheathed but his ferret eyes sharp, his bruised arm cradled like a trophy. The alehouse men trail behind, their sticks limp, their murmurs fading into the wind's low moan. The air smells of wet earth, smoke, and the faint, sour tang of fear, and the clay figure under your cloak feels heavier, its symbols etched in your mind, tying you to the oak, to Jitha, to the debt the masked man swore would find you. Your hoe drags in the mud, its splintered handle a reminder of the field hand you were before this night, before Alice's blood, Cuthbert spark, the stone's You're no rebel, no mystic. You'd rather be untangling a spreadsheet than this web of charms and chance. But Alice's weight, your sister's trembling hand, and the figures pull keep you moving, each step a choice you can't unmake. The manor's gate creaks open, its iron bars like teeth, and the Lord's men, armored, their faces hard, step out, their torches casting long shadows that dance across the mud. You feel the figure stir, not hot, but alive, as if it knows where you're going, what you're risking. The Lord's judgment waits, and with it, the truth of the debt, the web, the village's hunger. Aldrich halts, his cross gleaming, and turns to the Lord's men, his voice steady despite the mud on his robes. We bring blasphemers, he says, gesturing at the masked men, then Cuthbert, then, with a glance that cuts at you, they've defiled God's order, spilled blood, sown chaos. The Lord will judge. The lead guard, a broad man with a scar across his nose, nods, his eyes scanning the group, lingering on Alice's pale face, on your sister's bloodied hands, on you, the hoe-wielding peasant who dared step into this. Inside, he grunts, and the gates groan wider, swallowing you all. The manor's courtyard is a world apart from the village, cobbled, not muddy, its walls hung with tapestries that mock your patched tunic. The air smells of wax and roasted meat, a cruel tease to your empty stomach, and the torchlight glints off the guard's armor, making you feel small, like you wandered into a boardroom you don't belong in. The Lord awaits in the great hall, its oak doors carved with hounds and stags, and as you're herded inside, you catch Watt's smirk, his confidence returning now that he's on the Lord's ground. Cuthbert's eyes meet yours, not pleading but probing, like he's waiting to see if you'll break or burn. Your sister whispers, stay quiet, her voice barely a breath. But the figure's weight says otherwise, urging you to speak, to act, to cut the web before it strangles you all. The hall is vast, its rafters lost in shadow, its long table laden with the ghosts of feasts you'll never taste. Lord Ranulph sits at its head, a man of 40 winters, his beard streaked with gray, his eyes cold as the coins he hoards. His tunic is fine wool, his rings glinting, and beside him stands a reeve, a thin man with a quill behind his ear, his ledger open, ready to knot your fate. Aldrich strides forward, his cross high, and recounts the night, the oak, the masked men, Alice's blood, Cuthbert's words, your defiance. He paints you as a spark in the chaos, not a savior, and you feel the figure pulse, its symbols a silent protest. What adds his whining tale, blaming you for his bruise, Cuthbert for the rebellion, the masked man for the debt, his torn charm conveniently forgotten. The reeve scribbles, his quill scratching like what's tally stick, and Lord Ranulph's eyes narrow, weighing you all like grain on a scale. You stand, Alice still clinging to you, your sister's hand on your arm, the hoe useless in this hall of stone and power. The masked men kneel, their hoods pulled back, revealing faces you don't know, gaunt, weathered, one with a missing ear, another with a scar like Cuthbert's. They don't speak, their eyes fixed on the floor, but their silence feels heavy, like they're waiting for the dead to speak for them. Cuthbert stands tall, his ropes loose, his scar stark, and when Ranulph's gaze falls on him, he smiles, thin and sharp, like he's played this game before. "Speak, stranger," Ranulph says, his voice low, a lord's command that brooks no refusal. "What brings you to my lands, stirring my people to sin?" Cuthbert's voice is smooth, unhurried, like he's pitching to a skeptical board. "No sin, my lord, only truth. Your reeve counts, your priest prays, but your people starve. The debt they fear isn't theirs, it's yours." The hall gasps, the reeve's quill pausing, and Aldrich's cross trembles, his face red with fury. Ranulph leans forward, his rings glinting, his eyes sharp. "Bold words," he says, "for a man in ropes. And you," he turns to you, his gaze heavy, like a deadline you'll never meet. "You struck my reeves man, saved a girl, but stirred this chaos. Why?" You swallow, your throat dry as old bread, and feel the figure, its symbols urging you forward, like Jitha's voice in your ear. "Speak, and you could expose the web. What's charm?" The masked men's rights, Cuthbert's bones, the figure itself. It'd be a gamble, a spark that could burn the manor's order, or bury you under it. Or stay silent, let Ranulph judge, let Cuthbert carry the blame, and hope you walk out with Alice, your sister, your life. You're no orator. You're mud and taxes, a peasant who plows and prays. But Alice's blood, your sister's fear, the debt's shadow, they demand more than silence. "I saved her," you say, your voice rough but steady, nodding at Alice. "That's no sin. But the debt," you hesitate, the figures wait a warning, then push on, it's not just theirs. You point at the masked men, then Cuthbert, then, reckless, at the reeve, at what? It's in the fields, the taxes, the hunger. We're all paying. The hall stills, the reeve's quill frozen, Aldrich's cross lowering, Ranulph's eyes narrowing. What splutters, his bruise forgotten, and the masked men stir, one lifting his head, his scarred face almost smiling, like you've spoken his truth. Cuthbert laughs, a low, dangerous sound. "The field hand sees clearer than the Lord," he says, his scar twitching. "The debt's no spirit, it's power hoarded here." He nods at Ranulph, fearless, and the reeve slams his ledger shut, his face pale. Aldrich shouts blasphemy, but Ranulph raises a hand, silencing him, his eyes on you now, not Cuthbert, like he's seeing you for the first time. "You speak boldly for a peasant," he says, his voice cold but curious. "What would you have me do? Burn my ledger? Free my lands?" You freeze, the figure symbols flashing in your mind, spirals, eyes, hunger. You didn't expect this, a lord asking your will, like a CEO deferring to an intern. You could demand justice, free Alice, punish the masked men, exile what? Spare Cuthbert. Or you could push further, name the debt, the charms, the old ways, and risk the manor's wrath, the church's fire, for a truth that might not save anyone. Your sister's hand tightens, Alice's breath slow, and you feel the web, Jitha's shadow, the oaks hum, all waiting for you to choose. "I'd have you see," you say, your voice shaking but clear, like hitting send on a risky email. "See the fields, the hunger, the debt we pay for your table. Judge them." You nod at the masked men, "But judge us all." Ranulph leans back, his rings glinting, and the hall holds its breath. The reeve's quill still, Aldrich's cross trembling, Cuthbert's scar stark. The masked men watch, their eyes glinting, and you feel the figure, not heavy now but light, like it's done its work, like you've cut a thread in the web, or tied it tighter. Ranulph stands, his shadow long, and gestures at the guards. "Take them to the cells," he says, his voice flat, pointing at the masked men, then Cuthbert. "And you," he looks at you, Alice, your sister, "go home. But know this, the debt, as you call it, is mine to judge. His words are a warning, a promise, and you nod, Alice sagging against you, your sister pulling you toward the door. What smirks, thinking he's won, but Aldrich's eyes follow you, his cross steady now, like he's not done. The manor's doors close, the web holds, and you step into the night, the figure silent, the debt waiting, patient as the mud under your feet. The manor's gates clang shut behind you, their iron groan echoing in the pre-dawn chill, sealing Cuthbert, the masked men, and their secrets inside. You stumble through the mud, Alice's weight heavy on your shoulder, her bloodied arm wrapped in your sister's makeshift bandage, her breaths ragged but alive. Your sister clings to your other arm, her tear-streaked face pale, her hands still trembling from the night's terror. The hoe drags in your hand, its splintered handle caked with dirt, a useless relic of the field hand you were before the oak, before the stones, before Lord Ranulph's cold gaze pinned you like a bug. The air smells of wet straw and fading smoke. The manor's torches now distant flickers, and the village lies ahead, a huddle of dark huts under a sky bruised with clouds. The clay figure under your cloak is silent, its symbols no longer burning but heavy, like a debt unpaid, tying you to Jitha's web, to the hunger the masked man swore would remember you. Your boots squelch in the mud, each step a fight against the earth's cling, and your stomach gnaws, a dull ache that's been your shadow since you last ate, a crust of rye, hours ago, now a memory as thin as your hopes. You'd trade your soul for a hot meal, a mindless scroll through some app. But here, survival is mud and taxes, and the night's choices cling to you heavier than Alice's weight. Your sister's voice, barely a whisper, breaks the silence. "What did you do?" she asks, not accusing, but scared, like she's seen you sign a contract with terms she can't read. You don't answer, not because you don't want to, but because you don't know. You spoke to Ranulph, named the debt, saved Alice, but the web, Jitha's charms, Cuthbert's bones, the masked men's rights, feels tighter, not cut, and Aldrich's cross, what smirk, linger in your mind like a bad email you can't delete. The village emerges, its huts hunched like tired old men, their thatch sagging under the threat of rain. The alehouse is dark, its fire long dead, and the mill's wheel creaks faintly, a reminder of a lord's cut you'll never outrun. You guide Alice to her family's hut, a low, smoky thing near the church, and her mother, a wiry woman with eyes like flint, pulls her inside, her thanks choked with sobs. You nod, your throat tight, and turn away, your sister's hand still in yours, the hoe dragging behind. Your own hut waits at the village's edge, but you pause, the figure's weight stopping you, like it knows something you don't. The wind carries a new sound, not the stream, not the mill, but a low, rhythmic thud, like a heartbeat, coming from the woods where the oak stands. You glance at your sister, her face pale, her eyes wide. "Go home," you say, your voice rough, like you're assigning a task you don't trust yourself to finish. "I'll be there soon." She shakes her head, her grip tightening. "Not alone," she says, her voice small but fierce, like she's claiming a stake in this web. You want to argue, to send her to the hut's frail safety, but the thud grows louder, insistent, and the figure stirs, its symbols flashing in your mind. Spirals, eyes, hunger. You nod, and together you turn toward the woods, the mud sucking at your feet, the air growing colder, heavier, with the faint, sweet rot smell you thought you'd left at the oak. The trees close around you, their branches black and twisted, blotting out the sky. The thud is clearer now, not a heartbeat, but a drum, slow and deliberate, echoing through the undergrowth. Your sister's breath clouds, her hand cold in yours, and you grip the hoe tighter, its weight a poor shield against whatever waits. The stream gurgles nearby, its water glinting like a blade, and you see the oak ahead, its massive trunk a shadow against the dark. But it's not alone. Figures move beneath it, not the masked men, not Cuthbert, but others cloaked in rags, their faces hidden, their hands beating a small hide-covered drum. its rhythm syncing with the figure's pulse under your cloak. You stop, your sister freezing beside you, and crouch behind a gnarled root, the mud soaking your knees. The figures, 5, maybe 6, circle the oak, their drumbeat steady, their cloaks patched but adorned with charms, not bone but wood, carved with the same spirals, the same eyes. A woman stands at the center, her back to you, her hair gray and wild, her arms raised like Jitha's faceless figure. You don't see her face, but you know her, Ida, the weaver, who lives at the village's fringe. Her hut always thick with the scent of herbs, her eyes always watching. The village calls her harmless, a widow who spins wool and keeps to herself. But now, under the oak, she's something else, a priestess of the old ways, leading a rite the church would burn her for. Your sister's breath catches, and you press a finger to your lips, your heart thudding louder than the drum. Ida's voice rises, not a chant but a song, low and keening, in a tongue you don't know but feel, like a memory you never lived. The figures sway, their charms glinting, and you see the stones from before, not broken now, but rearranged, their spirals glowing faintly, like they're drinking the drum's rhythm. The sweet rot smell surges, and you realize it's not decay, but an offering. Herbs, blood, something spilled on the stones, tying this to the masked men, to Cuthbert's bones, to the debt Ranulph claimed as his to judge. The figure under your cloak stirs, its weight shifting, like it's waking to Ida's song. You could leave now, slip back to the village, hide the figure, and pretend you never saw this. It'd be safe, or as safe as a peasant's life gets. Mud, taxes, the Lord's shadow. But Ida's song, the drum's pulse, the stone's glow, they pull you, like a notification you can't ignore, demanding you see the web's heart, the debt's truth. You could join them, step into the circle, offer the figure, and claim your place in the old ways, in Jitha's world, in the hunger that binds the village. Or you could expose them, run to Aldrich, to Ranulph, and let the church's fire cleanse this, saving your sister, your hut, your soul, but damning Ida, the figures, maybe yourself. Your sister whispers, "What are they doing?" her voice trembling. And you shake your head, not because you don't know, but because you're afraid you do. Ida's song peaks, and she turns, her face catching the moonlight, lined, fierce, not the weaver's, but a seer's, her eyes glinting like Jitha's, like Cuthbert's. She doesn't see you, but you feel her like the figure feels her, and the drum stops, the silence heavier than the sound. The figures kneel, their charms raised, and Ida lifts a small clay vial, its surface etched with spirals, like your figure, like the stones. She pours it on the oak's roots, a dark liquid that smells of blood and earth, and the stones flare, their glow bright, then gone, like a spark snuffed out. You shift, the mud squelching, and a twig snaps under your knee, loud as a shout. Ida's head snaps up, her eyes finding yours, and the figures turn, their cloaks rustling, their charms glinting like knives. Your sister gasps, and you grab her, pulling her back, the hoe raised, useless against this. Ida steps forward, her vial empty, her voice low, not angry but commanding. "Come out, field hand," she says, her words cutting through the dark. "You've carried it long enough." You freeze, the figures wait a chain, tying you to her, to the oak, to the debt. She knows about the figure, about Jitha, about you. You could run, drag your sister to the village, hide from Ida's eyes, from the old ways pull. It'd keep you safe, for now, under the church's cross, the Lord's law. Or you could step forward, show the figure, join the circle, and face the debt's truth, whatever it costs. Your sister's trembling, the figures wait, and Ida's eyes burn, daring you to choose. The mud clings, the wind howls, and the oak watches, its roots drinking the blood, the debt, the night, as you stand at the edge, hoe in hand, deciding not just for you, but for all. You take a breath, the figure symbols alive in your mind, and step into the moonlight, your sister beside you, the hoe steady now, like it's found its purpose. Ida's face softens, almost a smile, and the figures lower their charms, their eyes glinting, welcoming or judging, you can't tell. The stones are silent, but the debt hums, patient, waiting for your choice to feed it or fight it. The village sleeps, the manor judges, and you, the field hand, hold the figure, the web, the truth in your muddy hands. The moonlight spills over the old oak, its twisted branches casting jagged shadows across the circle of stones, their etched spirals dull now, as if exhausted by Ida's ritual. You stand in the open, the clay figure clutched in one hand, its symbols cold but heavy, like a vow you never meant to make. Your sister trembles beside you, her eyes wide, her breath clouding in the chill, and the hoe in your other hand feels like a child's toy against the weight of Ida's gaze. The weaver-turned seer stares at you, her gray hair wild, her face lined but fierce, her empty vial glinting with traces of blood and earth. The cloaked figures, village folk you thought you knew, their charms of wood and twine raised like offerings, watch in silence, their eyes glinting, not with welcome, but with expectation. The air is thick with the sweet rot smell of Ida's offering, now fading into the damp, earthy musk of the woods, and the stream gurgles nearby, its black water a mirror for the debt that binds you, the village, the web you've stumbled through since Jitha's first warning. You've saved Alice, faced Ranulph carried the figure, but the debt, the hunger, the old ways, the truth, stands before you now, demanding a final choice. Ida steps closer, her boots silent in the mud, her voice low, like the wind through the oak's branches. You've seen it, she says, her eyes locked on the figure in your hand. The debt we pay to live, to eat, to breathe. Give it to me, field hand, and join us, or keep it and carry its weight alone. Her words are not a threat, but a challenge, heavy as the taxes you've toiled under, sharp as what's tally stick. The figures shift, their charms swaying, and you feel the web tighten. Jitha's faceless charm, Cuthbert's broken bones, the masked men's chants, all leading to this moment, this choice. Your sister's hand brushes yours, her voice a whisper. Don't, she pleads, but her eyes flicker to Ida, to the stones, like she feels the pull too, the hunger that's more than an empty stomach. You look at the figure, its spirals and eyes staring back, and understand, finally, why surviving here is impossible. The village isn't just mud and taxes, it's a machine, grinding lives into offerings, demanding blood for every loaf, every fire, every day you steal from the earth. Jitha's warnings, Cuthbert's spark, the masked men's rights, Ida's song, they're all threads in the same web, tying you to a debt older than the Lord's manor, deeper than Aldrich's cross. To live is to owe, and the debt doesn't care if you're a peasant or a lord, a field hand or a seer. You think of Alice's blood, your sister's fear, the barley you'll never harvest enough of, and realize the village isn't waiting for you to save it. It's waiting for you to pay or to break. The drum's echo lingers in your ears, though the figures are still, and you feel the figure's weight shift, not heavier but sharper, like it's choosing you as much as you're choosing it. Give it to Ida, join her circle, and you become part of the old ways, feeding the debt with chance and blood, preserving the village at the cost of your soul, your sister's safety, the life you've known. Keep it, walk away, and you carried the debt alone, a marked soul under Aldrich's eye, Ranulph's law, what's knife, with no one to share the burden. Or your heart stumbles at the thought, destroy it, break the figure, the stones, the web, and risk everything. The village's fragile balance, your sister's life, for a chance to end the debt, to free the fields from hunger, if such a thing is possible. Ida's eyes narrow, her hand outstretched. The vials glint, a reminder of the blood she spilled. Choose, field hand, she says, her voice softer now, almost pitying. The oak waits, the earth waits. The figures murmur, their charms glinting, and the oak's roots seem to shift, drinking the night, the debt, your indecision. Your sister's hand tightens, her breath hitching, and you think of the hut, the cold hearth, the barley field you'll plow tomorrow, if tomorrow comes. You're no hero, no martyr. You're mud and toil, a peasant who'd rather dodge what's notches than face a moment like this. But the figure, the web, the debt, they've chosen you, and there's no running now. You step back, the mud sucking at your boots, and raise the figure, not to give, but to hold, its symbols catching the moonlight. No, you say, your voice rough but clear, like hitting send on a message you can't recall. No more blood, no more debt. The words surprise you, raw and reckless, and Ida's face hardens, her hand dropping, the figures gasping, their charms falling still. Your sister pulls at you, her voice a hiss, what are you doing? But you shake her off, the hoe steady in your other hand, like it's found its purpose at last. You turn to the stones, their spirals faint, and swing the hoe, not at Ida, not at the figures, but at the circle itself. The blade cracks against the nearest stone, shattering it, the sound sharp as thunder, the fragments scattering into the mud. The figures cry out, Ida stumbles, and the oak trembles, its branches creaking like a scream. You swing again, another stone breaking, its spirals gone, and the air shifts heavy, like a storm breaking inside you. The figure burns, not with heat, but with light, its symbols glowing, then fading, and you feel the web snap, not all of it, but enough. A thread cut, a debt refused. Ida lunges, her vial raised, her voice a wail. Fool, she shouts, but there's fear in her eyes, like she's seen the earth turn against her. The figures scatter, some fleeing, others kneeling, their charms dropped, their faces pale. Your sister grabs you, pulling you back, and you drop the hoe, the figure still in your hand, its weight gone, its clay crumbling to dust, like it's done its work. The oak groans, a low, unnatural sound, and the ground shakes, not enough to crack, but enough to feel, like the debt's anger, or its release. You run, your sister with you, the woods blurring, the stream's gurgle fading, the sweet rot smell gone. The village emerges, its huts dark, the church's steeple a silent judge, and you stumble to your hut, the door creaking as you push inside. The hearth is cold, the air stale, but you collapse, your sister beside you, her sobs softening into silence. The figure's dust clings to your hand, its symbols etched in your mind, and you know what you've done. You broke the circle, refused the debt, but the web remains. Ranulph's Manor, Aldrich's Cross, Watt's Knife, the village's hunger. You've given them a chance, a crack in the machine, but the debt is patient, and the earth doesn't forget. Dawn breaks gray and cold, and you hear the village stir. Hilda's curses, Tom's cough, the mills will creaking. You don't know if Ida's circle will reform, if the masked men will speak, if Cuthbert's spark will burn. You don't know if Ranulph will call you back, if Aldrich will hunt you, if what will carve a new notch for your defiance. But you know why surviving here is impossible. Not just the mud, the taxes, the hunger, but the debt that binds them, demanding everything, offering nothing. You chose to break it, not for you, not for your sister, but for the fields, the village, the chance of a day without blood. You kneel by the hearth, coaxing a fire from the last twigs, the flames weak but alive. Your sister watches, her face gaunt but calm, and you hand her the last crust of rye, splitting it. The act a small rebellion against the debt's hunger. The village will grind on, the Lord will take, the church will pray, but you've cut a thread, and that's enough for now. You lean back, the fire's warmth a fragile lie, and close your eyes, the figure's dust on your hands, the oaks groan in your ears, the debt's shadow waiting, always waiting. Sleep well, field hand, if you dare. The mud's patient, and the debt dreams deeper than you. If you hear a drum in the dark, don't answer. It's just the earth, counting what you owe.